guys, welcome back to the channel. As you can see, I did go ahead and put all of the insulation on the exterior walls. I didn't show a video on it. There's really not much to it. It's just, you just take it, cut it to length, and stick it in the hole, and fill everything in so no cold air gets in or out, or vice versa. Next step we're going to be doing is hanging drywall. I'm going to be using just 4x8 sheets of 1/2 inch ultralight drywall. When you do drywall, well, first, getting ahead of myself there, these are the tools you're going to need. You need a screw gun or a drill. That's so you can attach it. A drywall saw. That's for cutting out our outlets. Of course, a tape measure. A utility knife. Preferably with a sharp blade, it'll go a lot easier. This I have set up with a slightly oversized hole saw. This is going to be for our recessed lights. I do enough of this work, I got the tools for it, so I have a hole saw that I can just zip the hole real fast. If not, you just use the drywall saw. Just use the, or let me rephrase, it's called a keyhole saw. Use that, so you just trace your circle out. It should come, the light should come with the template. You just trace the circle out, cut it out, and you're good to go. Then you also need a straight edge or a drywall square. They look like this. They are very inexpensive, and it makes your life so much easier having this. You can pick them up at Harbor Freight. Pretty much any hardware store is going to have them. And then you got what are called, well, I've always called them dead men. All this is a piece of 1x furring strip. This is for when we attach it to the ceiling, and seeing as how I am only one person, I can't hold up a sheet of drywall and screw it into the ceiling at the same time, so we get one of these. So basically I can stick this like so, lean up against the wall, pick my drywall up, rest the edge of drywall right there. So that'll carry that edge of the drywall. Then I grab my other one, I raise the drywall up to the ceiling, put my foot right here on it, and I got it so it's bigger than the ceiling. And then all you do is pull. And what it does is it holds that piece of drywall up on the ceiling. So that frees my hands up to come over here and put screws in. So I got those because I'm only one person. And that is a trick I found over the years that works really, really well. So, just like our wall plate, how we staggered the seams on it. Remember, I got one right there, and then the other one's down over here. We're going to do the same thing with drywall. You don't want to just hang drywall so that it's just a box. You want to stagger your seams. And when I start hanging it, I'll show you a little bit more what I mean. But the reason behind that is it's easier to smooth out if you don't have 4 seams coming all in one spot. If you stagger the seams, it gives a more professional look when you finish spackling it. Makes the seams stronger. The weakest point is where 2 pieces of drywall come together. So you don't want to have, 4 of those all in one spot. it creates a weak spot, and you tend to get cracks in the drywall if you do it that way. But I'll show you more about that once I get there, and once I start getting some of this stuff hung. Okay, so first thing we need to do, move you over here so you get a little bit of a better angle, is we need to mark the spots for our recessed lights, as well as cut this to length. You want the edge, let's see if you can see down that end. Yeah, we want this edge right over here. We want it to break or stop on one of these floor joists overhead. Now, they may not be 16 on center. You got to measure, and basically you're going to cut it to length so that it breaks on the closest joist to 60 to 8 foot rather. So let's give this a measure and see what my length's going to be. So it looks like 92 and a half is what the length's going to be. So what we're going to want to do, whenever possible, it's always a good idea to try and keep a factory edge to factory edge. So when I'm cutting this, this is the edge that's going to go up against the wall. So nothing else, that's not going to matter if that's a cut edge. I want to kind of keep this edge nice so that the factory edge of the next piece butts up against it. Makes it easier to spackle. So we're at 92 and a half, so come over here. If I can get the tape measure to stay. We're going to come over here to see. These are the struggles you have when you work by yourself. We're at 92 and a half. And all you're going to do drywall square. I actually got to move this down a little bit here, guys. Move you down here. So you line your drywall square up. Give a little pressure down at the bottom, just so it doesn't move. Put a new blade in your knife because this one's dull from doing insulation work. So as far as it goes out there. And you do not need to press super hard. Really, all you're trying to do when you're cutting drywall is score the surface of the paper. The paper of the drywall gives it all its strength. So, as soon as you score that surface, you can come over here and just put a little pressure on it and it snaps right off. Then you come to the back side. And there you go. Cut it to length. So, we also have, if you remember, a recessed light going in there. So, you need to measure for that. And I know I want to become, we're going to come, let's see here. this is where you guys just need to make a decision where you want the lights, and that's in the planning process. So I know I want to come over 3 feet. So put a mark at 3 feet. And then you got to look at it. When you're doing these measurements, make sure you know which edge is going to be up against which part of the wall. Because that'll depend, you know, that'll affect where you measure. Alright, so, I don't know why, but for whatever reason my GoPro did not want to record. So it missed the whole section on me showing you how to do this layout. So we're gonna redo it here. Sorry about that. So what we want to do is go ahead and cut our hole for a recessed light. Now remember, that's just a temporary light, but it's going to be a lot easier to go ahead and just cut the hole now. That way you don't have any risk of hitting a floor joist or something stupid like that. Essentially what we're going to do, now that we've cut it to length, we got our sheet of drywall here, it's cut to length. This end, right here, is going up against this wall right here. Which means this is the finished surface. So that means after we take this and we flip it up, this edge of the drywall is going to go against that bulkhead right there. So now we know our 2 spots that we need to measure from. I know I'm coming out 3 feet off of this wall. So we're going to come out 3 feet, which puts me right about in the middle of this bay here. So what I did is I came over from this edge, I came over 3 feet, and I put a mark right there. And I wanted to be 3 feet off of this wall here, okay? But I got the bulkhead because I have, you know, I got hot water based board lines and stuff. And it's just easier to do it that way. So what you do is you just measure the difference between here, here, and here, which is 6 inches. I just made it easy. So that we just subtract from 3 feet, so it's 2.5 feet. So that'll give me a nice even reveal from each one. So that's the same. This is going to be the same way. It's going to be 3 feet off of that wall, coming this way, which is about in the middle of this bay. Now we're going to be 2'6" off of there, and same thing over here. Make them symmetrical. It's pleasing to the eye. So we're going to measure over, we already measured over a 3 foot, and then we want to go 2'6". So this is the edge of the drywall that's going up against that wall. So all I did was measure down 2'6". And so we got 30 inches. See right there to the center? And I put another mark. And where those 2 lines intersect is where I went ahead using my hole saw and I drilled the hole. So if you don't have a drill or hole saws that size, that's fine. You just need to use your keyhole saw or your drywall saw and trace the circle around in there. Your recessed light should come with a template. It should have a little circle cut out template. All you do is just put that up there, put the center of it right on your X where you mark it, trace it out, and then cut it out with your drywall saw. It doesn't have to be any more difficult than that. So we have our length, we got our only thing that we had to cut out for was our recessed light. So we're going to go ahead and raise this up, and using our dead men, go ahead and get it kind of secured into place and throw some screws in it. Alright, so the only good thing is drywall is not super heavy. I would recommend do this with 2 people, guys. If you can, do it with 2 people. It just makes things a whole lot easier. I've done this hundreds of thousands of times at this point, so for me it's not that big a deal, but for somebody that doesn't do this on a regular basis, this could be very difficult to manage, and then you risk of dropping this thing on your head and damaging the drywall and damaging your head, and we don't want that. So, but I'm going to show you how I do it, and then you guys can take from it what you will. So now we're resting on there you go. And that piece of drywall is just about perfectly where I want it. Just about. It's not perfect, but we can shift it around. It's not that big a deal. So, we're going to go find the hammer. Oh, and a wood block. And I broke it. No big deal. So I really want that as tight to that bulkhead as I can get it. So you don't want to just hammer on drywall. It'll just bust apart. It's just not good. So what you do is you take a wood block. We put a wood block on it. And you can shift it around by hitting on the wood block without hurting the drywall. Let's see what that did. We're good there. This needs another smack over here. We're dead even with it, and dead even with it. So that's the benefit of having the dead men, or tees, drywall tees, whatever you want to call them. It allows you as one person, once you get it up there, they're carrying the weight. So that frees your hands up to do whatever it is that you need to do. We're sitting pretty tight to our wall. Adjust that a little bit. Come here and go like this. And we're nice and tight to our wall. So, if I were using nails, drywall nails, I would have used construction adhesive or liquid nail or something along those lines to attach this to the ceiling as well. Helps prevent it from dropping down or nail pops or things like that. But I am using screws. We're going to be using 1.25 inch drywall screws. And how I like to do this is I do 5 screws. So you're going to have 1 on each end, and then you're going to have 3 in the field. So basically 1 on each end, 1 in the center, and then split the difference. And you do that on every joist. So that'll keep it from sagging or falling or anything like that. And when you put the screws in, you just want to barely have the head of the screw below the surface of the paper. You're trying not to break the surface of the paper. You don't need to recess them in very deep at all. Like I said before, the paper is where all the strength in the drywall is. So let me grab a, show you what I mean. So when you're putting your screws in, see how it's just barely below the surface of the drywall. It's not much. I know this thing doesn't zoom in very good, but you don't want to suck the screw all the way through, and that's pretty easy to do. Home Depot, all the hardware stores, they sell special screw gun tips specifically for drywall work. So it's got like a little stop on it, so it doesn't allow you to put the screw in too far. Maybe worthwhile picking a set of those up. They're pretty cheap. They're $8-9. And then basically, how you see I have 5 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just like that. And you're going to do that on every ceiling joist here, as well as on the ends. That's the way I prefer to do it. I've never had any problems. I've never had them fall or sag or anything like that. So it's just a good practice. It's probably overkill. I could probably get away with just doing 4 screws, but I'd rather have the peace of mind and not have to come back and fix the job. So I'm going to go ahead and put you on time lapse so you can see the whole process of me cutting it and setting sheetrock. And then we'll come back through and I'll show you the
yeah, you know what I wish, but I wish it with love. Cause there's hate in my heart for the ones up above. Our lives won't live the same. Is the hate in your heart for the misfits enough? Yeah, for the misfits enough. She got the likes, I don't get how I miss this. We are the rare, you don't know how to distance. Now we take a curtain call. Who we are, we never saw. We got the list, got the shit, got the misfits. She got the mail, now she calls, she missed this. Living big, we never small. Yeah, we here, we tower tall. Take a little time from now to never. Take a little sign, so out you go. That's what you can find is light and feather. this bridge. While we hear the thunder roll, most of us will never know. Maybe I like what I do with a tightrope. Lately I'm tired of the wire that I crossed up. Now we work to find a soul. Not alone, we lost control. Take a little time from now to never. Take a little sign, so out you go. Cause what you can find is light and feather. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, you know what I wish, but I wish it with love.
And as you can see, we staggered all our seams so we don't get cracks in the walls. Haven't decided what I want to do with the windows yet. So, I'm not drywalling them yet. I might do them in wood. I may end up doing them in drywall, I don't know. Haven't made up my mind. Bulkheads are done. Ceiling's all drywalled. Still got to do the closet. It's just a closet. Not worried about it. Next step from here is going to be setting corner beads. Got a bunch of different kinds. You got plastic, you got metal, you got paper tape covered that just gets set in spackle. I like using the metal corner beads. They come in various lengths. You can get them 8 foot, 10 foot, and 12 foot, I believe. And what that does is this edge that looks absolutely horrible right now, that covers that up and adds strength to the corner. So it goes up something like this. So it goes up like that. And then you put it in with screws and then you spackle it in. And you don't see the metal, it gets covered up by the spackle. And that keeps things from bumping into it and breaking the spackle out. Adds some durability to it and makes a finished surface. So I'm gonna get set up here, and when I bring you guys back, I will show you the set corner bead. There's a way you want to set it so it doesn't twist, and when you look down it you get a nice straight line and makes it look a little more professional that way. But all in all, it turned out pretty good. There are a couple spots where the rocket scientists at Home Depot messed up my drywall, but you get what you pay for. So
A couple years of money wise.
right. All right, guys, back at it. Finally got set up here. So there's a couple ways you can mount corner bead. They all end up doing about the same thing. You can use screws, which I prefer doing because you can adjust them a little bit easier. Or you can use nails, at which point you have another tool that slides across that you hit with a mallet. What it does is it pinches in these corners and actually sets your corner bead in place for you if you're using nails. Or you can use the mud in or spackle in corner bead, which I've used and honestly don't really like. I think it cracks too easy. But what I found is the easiest is start at about the middle. Well, first thing is get your corner bead set up in there. Make sure it's laying flush. There's nothing underneath of it that's gonna hold it down. And you're not gonna put the screw all the way in yet. And anytime you do this, you always wanna have another screw directly across from it. So that'll keep this screw, if you put this screw in, it'll keep it from pulling that corner bead up, and it just creates issues, and you end up getting all irritated and pissed off and ripping the corner bead down and putting another piece up. So, right now we're just trying to hold it in place until we get all our screws started. And once we got all the screws started, we'll work from one end down to the other end, tightening them up. And you can go about every 18 inches. Just like this. And the process for doing this on walls, instead of being a bulkhead, if you had a corner on a wall, the process is identical. It's the same exact process, you're just doing it vertically instead of horizontally, that's all. come down, make sure the corner bead's set. And sometimes you'll notice as you're coming down, I don't know if you're, I'm going to try and pick you up so you can see this. I don't know if you can see the corner bead's trying to twist a little bit as you're coming down. That's kind of normal, especially for metal corner bead. Let me get you guys positioned here. Really, if you pay attention to it and catch it early, it's not that big a deal. You just go ahead and straighten it back out. You may have to pull a screw out. But you don't want to just go and say, oh, I can fix it later. You actually want to, because it creates buckles in the corner bead. So if you notice something, go ahead and pull a screw out, fix it, put the screw back in again. That's why we're using screws instead of nails. And if you do pull a screw out, try not to go back in the same hole. You're not going to want to put your screw back in the same hole because it has a tendency to want to pull itself back into the same position it was before. And then you're just going to be fighting yourself because you pulled it out for a reason. So we can start at this end. And all you want to do is take that screw down until it's just below the surface. You just don't want it sticking up. You don't have to go crazy and sink it all the way halfway to the side. So just like that. And you just go right down the line. And you also want to feel it, like right there, that corner bead's moving. If the corner bead moves, you're going to end up with a crack in your spackle after you paint because it's got movement in it, and that'll show up through the spackle. So go ahead and put another screw in it, that's all. There we go. Here. And take your time. When you're doing this, there's no rush. I'm going kind of quick only because I'm so used to it, but take your time. The better this looks now, the easier your spackling is going to be. And if the easier the spackling is going to be, the better your job's going to look. So that is how you set corner bead. And I'll give you guys a closer look at it here. Let's see if I can zoom out, if it'll let me. It's being stupid. Okay, sorry about that. Didn't want to let me zoom out. So, as I was saying, you don't need to go crazy with the screws. You want it just below, just so you can't see it. And if you look down your corner bead now, this is probably going to be hard to see with the GoPro, but let's see here. There we go. You should end up with a nice straight line going down. The straighter you can make this now, the easier it is going to be to spackle. And once you're done, if this is straight, your spack will go on nice and easy. And then when you're laying in bed down here, looking up at your bulkhead, you're not going to be seeing the North Atlantic in winter. It's going to be nice and straight. And now for this edge here, since obviously that wasn't long enough, all we do is you could take a measurement and cut it, or I'm going to try and do it with one hand, so it's probably not going to work. Bring your corner bead up, set it into place, and you're just going to eyeball where it's going to go. And then, damn it. Anyway, take a pair of tin snips after I put you back on the tripod here. So, I'm going to measure now that I got two hands. It's fine. So we need 40 inches. Okay. So, you can't really see it. Well, you can on the camera. My mark's right there. All you're going to do is take this, cut one side, flip it over, cut the other side, give it a twist, and there we got our piece. So that piece will now, well, it should, anyway. And then it's just a matter of repeating the process that you did for the other side of the corner bead. Put some screws in it, make it straight, and then go ahead and spackle it. And let me get this corner bead up, and I'll bring you guys back when it's time to show you how to do tape coat for spackling. Although I may end up making a whole nother video on that now that I'm thinking about it. So that may be a video all on its own, because there's a lot that goes into that. So if you guys like the video, please like and subscribe. Help support my new channel here. Got any comments, concerns, something you want to see, something I didn't cover, leave it in the comments below. And till next time, see you guys later.